American President Donald Trump found himself under the threat of exposure. After all, in the United States, the topic of publishing Jeffrey Epstein's files is gaining momentum, which could shed light on the connections between Donald Trump and the scandalous sex offender. In recent days, Trump has been actively trying to divert suspicion from himself and shift the blame onto the Democrats. He even requested the United States Department of Justice to conduct a new investigation into Epstein's connections with the Democratic Party and even some major banks in America. But do you know all the details of this high-profile American scandal? In this episode, I'll tell you what's happening and what consequences this could have for Trump. Why did the Epstein case materials cause such a stir in the United States? What is mentioned about Donald Trump in these documents? And how are Donald Trump's opponents using the Epstein case against him? My name is Pechiy. Let's discuss this topic together. But before we start, I ask you to subscribe to this channel, give it a like, write any detailed comment under this episode, and also subscribe to my Telegram channel, Pechiy News. The link to it is in the description of this video. There we publish breaking news as it comes in. If you want to support the work of this YouTube channel, you can do so with any donation or paid subscription using the links and details in the description of this video. Choose any format that's convenient for you. I would be grateful for any support you can give. And you can also use the QR code on your screens. So, last week the Jeffrey Epstein story once again caused a stir in the United States, creating huge image problems personally for Donald Trump. On November 12, the House Committee on Oversight and Government Reform of the United States Congress released over 20,000 pages of case documents. These are mainly email exchanges from 2011 to 2012. What is the essence of the Epstein case? The billionaire financier was accused of trafficking minors as young as 14 between 1994 and 2004. According to the charges, he and his accomplices recruited girls by offering them money for so-called massages, which later turned into sexual acts. The case had no verdict, as Epstein allegedly died in the United States in 2019. Connections were established with those in the United States, which were created in the United States of America. There were connections in the United States of America. Connections were established in the United States of America. In the United States of America, connections were established, created in connection with those in the United States of America, created in. In the United States of America, it should. Many politicians and businessmen flew, as proven by the flight logs. And the source of speculation in this case is the possible existence of the so-called Jeffrey Epstein contact list, which may contain a list of people who could have been his clients. But the death of the accused made it impossible to hold a trial, during which evidence and other investigative materials could have been presented. Trump used this even during the election campaign, promising to make all the Epstein case materials public. However, upon returning to the White House, he kept delaying this process in every possible way, which caused anger among the conservative part of his own supporters, the so-called Make America Great Again. And now Trump is doing everything he can to thwart any attempts to make the files public, even though he partly won the 2024 election thanks to his promise to show everyone what's hidden in those Epstein files. The main question on everyone's mind is, what's hidden in those documents? The documents do not contain direct accusations against Donald Trump, but they are full of references to him, which fuels political speculation. In his letters to his accomplice, Ghislaine Maxwell, Epstein calls Trump a dog that doesn't bark. Well, despite the hours spent with victims of sexual crimes, Trump does not appear in their testimonies. Well, he keeps silent. In a message to journalist Michael Wolff, who is the author of the bestseller Fire and Fury about Donald Trump, Epstein claims, quote, "Of course, Trump knew about the girls because he asked Ghislaine to stop. It is implied that Ghislaine kept recruiting girls and he asked her to stop." There are also some humorous stories in the letters. Epstein writes to Maxwell that Trump, quote, "was once again checking out the girls by the pool and could have walked into a door if he wasn't careful." Many of the emails are criticism of Trump as a crazy and shady businessman. They also contain detailed monitoring of his flights from Epstein's pilot to coordinate routes and avoid accidental encounters at shared airports. White House Press Secretary Karoline Leavitt stated at the briefing that these materials, quote, "Power to board absolutely prove nothing except that President Trump did nothing wrong. Donald Trump himself wrote the following on Truth Social: "The Democrats are once again trying to bring up the Jeffrey Epstein hoax because they will do anything to distract from how badly they handled the shutdown. However, the opposition among the Democrats and some Republicans is not giving up and is demanding the full disclosure of the case materials, including photos and videos. Here's what's important. Everyone has seen the messages and emails, but not the photos or videos. The latest documents in the Epstein case were obtained at the request of committee members from the Democratic Party, despite fierce resistance from some Republicans. And the release was tied to a specific moment, and the backstory itself looks like a political thriller. To force the United States Department of Justice to release the case materials, a special bill was introduced in Congress, the Epstein Files Transparency Act. There is a fierce battle going on right now for its passage. Speaker of the House Mike Johnson has not brought the bill up for consideration using his exclusive powers, for example by sending the entire House of Representatives on recess early as he did in July. To force Mike Johnson to bring the bill to a vote, members of Congress initiated a special petition. They were just one signature short of the required number. There were 217, but they needed 218. Congresswoman Adrita Grijalva became key in the further story. Unlike other lawmakers, she was elected in a special election on September 23. Since Grijalva had announced in advance that she would sign this petition, that would make it 218 and everything would get the green light. Speaker Mike Johnson delayed her swearing in as much as possible, citing various reasons. He sent everyone on vacation, announced a shutdown, then something else, and so on. But in the end, due to public pressure and threats of lawsuits, by the way, he backed down. Grijalva was sworn in on November 12 and promptly signed the petition. Now Speaker Johnson is forced to bring the bill up for consideration, as he stated this could happen as early as this week. There are enough votes in the House of Representatives, but the bill still needs to be supported by the upper chamber, that is, the Senate. And there the Republicans have a stronger position. And even if the Senate votes in favor, Trump could still veto it. Although Trump found another loophole, which I talked about in a separate episode on this YouTube channel, so go check it out. Nevertheless, at the very least, this bill is perfect for constant speculation and casting a shadow on Trump. It appears the Democrats have managed to turn some United States president's supporters against him, because it looks very strange when Trump, who promised, let me emphasize promised, during his campaign to release all the files, is now avoiding it, and on the contrary, is doing everything to keep them from being published. This, in turn, is important in the context of the midterm elections to Congress next fall. But now Trump is trying to flip the table and use the Epstein files as a tool against the Democrats. And I also have a separate episode about this, so I recommend subscribing to my YouTube channel and checking it out now. If you want to better understand what's really going on with this case, I'll leave it at that for now. Share your opinions and conclusions in the comments under this episode, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell, and don't forget to like. That's all for now. Take care. Goodbye.